Right. So as part of our ServiceNow learning is concerned from BA, we discussed about ServiceNow application in the last session. So what role being a business analyst we play, all that. So couple of videos in context to ServiceNow were already posted. So which I'll be providing the link description below to this video. So you guys can go through that. Now, today we are going to discuss about the service catalog record procedures, especially in ServiceNow. Being a business analyst, in what way are we related to this and how this can be performed? First of all, let us understand what this catalog and record procedures are all about. Service catalogs are majorly considered as a digital storefront, majorly used in ServiceNow for users to request any services whenever they want to have any kind of service management services and all everything. So for that, there is a catalog that is to be performed with. So that's where the service catalog is being used for. When it comes to the record procedures, which is a specific type of catalog item, which majorly create the kind of records on the table, something like when we are managing any kind of incidents or any kind of change request and all. So instead of the standard request items, is there is any new records that we create in the table, right? So because let's say that when we want to make any changes on the existing application, some requirements that we want to be performed here. So all these things can be stored in the record procedure. That's where generally this is being used for. Now, when it comes to the ServiceNow catalog itself are concerned, as I told you, because as in when just now I told you, right? So it's a kind of centralized portal. So users can request whatever the IT and as well as business services we have. So everything that can be, because as part of the project that we are working on, we may require an additional laptops or we may require some additional hardware to perform or any kind of access request for multiple roles, etc. Everything will be listed under the service catalog here. Record procedure as in when I told you, because whatever the records that we are creating in any kind of service node table, either in a form of creation of request or changes or any kind, everything can be done under the record procedure. So these are two things which as a BA we must be required, because as a BA from the application point of view, so there are some configuration understanding is needed. So how this can be configured, right? What are the configuration rules that are to be applied? Everything we must be aware of. Unless until knowing about the configuration, more or less like a service no admin kind of role is something as a BA we do. Apart from the document preparations, etc., we use it. Because whatever the services that are to be rendered in this process of creating the documents and making some field level changes or any kind of workflows you want to make. So those changes should also be performed by us as a BA. So this topic is exclusively confined to service catalog and record procedures. Let us confine only to that, because already practically how this can be done, how we can work on service no application and all that I have already made. Again, as I told you earlier and repeating the same, I'll post the video so that you guys can go through that. So this is what generally service catalog and record procedures were all about. Now, from a business analyst perspective, what is that something that we do here? Because many people who are working as a ServiceNow business analyst or who wants to make their career in the field of ServiceNow BA, they want to know this from a BA perspective. So as a BA, there are a couple of activities we do, right? So as in when we do, right? So we do the requirement gathering, we do the process analysis, we do the design collaborations, data mapping, right? So these involvement will be there. Now and then we are becoming technical business analysts. There is no called functional BA. There were some roles as functional BA, but some technical BA business analyst roles were coming. So requirement gathering, where we have to identify what are the services that end user or any kind of department wants to request. through the catalog. So that has to be added. So that has to be configured. It has to be configured by the developer. But the required configuration steps as well as the documents we have to prepare. So for that, requirement gathering is important. That is point number one. Second, process analysis, because we need to understand what are the required workflows that we have. Let's say that we want to provide any kind of approval for the login credentials or any kind of fulfillments or any service level agreements we have. Because whenever we start working on the project, we have to provide service level agreements here. So how this workflow process happens and all that process analysis that is to be designed. Advantage we have is uh, we have already existed provided workflow templates were available. So depends on our requirement, our project, what are the necessary modifications that are to be made so that we have to be performed under the process analysis in the workflow in the service application itself. At the same time, we have already other tools available. Some open source as well as trial versions are available to create the process flows that we can do as well. So in that way also we can present. Because visualization, apart from the documentation, visualization plays a vital and important role. That's where our focus must be more of. Next, form designing coordination means if you want to design a form, generally UI and UX designers will do that. So design at the same time, development team will be involved in designing the user-friendly records and procedures and all. So that we have to collaborate with the development team so that whatever the required fields that are needed in the particular forms, everything can be understood by us and we can suggest them accordingly. So that also can be done by us. Next one about the data mapping part, because data mapping when we are transforming from old legacy application to new service now. Let's say organization is using a service management application for a very long time. Now they are planning to move from there to the new service now application. So the data mapping is required. So we must ensure whatever the required fields that are existed or any new fields that are to be added has to be transformed exactly to the new cloud service now application. So as a BA, we need to understand the data mapping procedures. We must ensure what are the fields or records which are needed for the producer maps that are to be focused more to the targeted service node tables. So that we must ensure. So for that, we have to work with ETL team also because ETL developers were there using, it can be of any tool we use, either it can be Informatica or something. So they have to extract the data, they have to transform and load the data. So as a BA, we have to assist them in performing this data mapping, etc. Next, we will be involving in with the testing and as well as user interface team so that we have to validate any kind of catalog items or if you want to validate any kind of record procedures, right? So at the same time, if you want to correct any kind of workflows and as well as record creations. So whatever the code that was developed, so that usually we create some test cases and all. So based upon the test cases, we do the comparison and we see, make sure whether to what extent the expected versus actual result was met, right? So if it was not met, what kind of bugs were identified, everything has to be updated on different boards. Like in Jira, we use in Jira, right? So therein we can update all the bugs over there. So frequent development and rework on those bugs will be done by the development team. Finally, we do the user acceptance testing at the client location. Make sure as per their requirement we done so far. This is something will be part of testing and UAT. As a testing team, they will be doing, but as a BA, we will be involving in validating all these because these catalog items were taken by us as a BA from the client. So we are the one who has to validate at the time of testing and user acceptance testing as well. So these are the perspectives we see from a BA because as in when we are working on the service catalog and record procedures in service now. So these are the activities as a BA we have to perform here. Now, this is a workflow process. I've just given a simple steps so that you guys can understand. So first of all, we have to log into the service portal because application videos I have already made. So there were a couple of in the session in my channel so that I'll provide the link so that you guys can see. But this is exclusively to make it very simple. I just made it. So the first one about user logs in service portal, that is point number one. Second, we have to navigate to the service catalog, point number two. Whenever we have identified service catalog navigations and all, we have to select whatever the catalog items or any kind of record procedures we have. Followed by this, we have to submit whatever the necessary details regarding what kind of items do we have, right? So everything have to be mentioned in this. Next, we need to create a record in ServiceNow. Either it can be an incident or it can be a request that we are making, or it can be any HR case or something. So that can be recorded. So subsequently, that has to be created and translated in a form of workflow so that for the approvals and notifications and all, everything will be done here. So these are the different workflow steps. Being a business analyst, we have to follow some kind of application knowledge, as in when I stated earlier. So must be required. So knowing about how the application works, so how the configurations will be taken place, so how the administrative activities in terms of the field level creations, etc., will be known. So that application knowledge, apart from the documentation, is always needed, because documentation as a BA, how this can be translated will be done by us. Apart from that, this is also needed for us. This is what generally workflows are. And these were the common use cases for your better understanding I have given. Right? Let's say that IT request, right? So requesting for a new laptop or something like. So the target table will be posted this in the SC request. If it is an incident logging and all, let's say that we want to report any technical issue that we come across while we are working on the project and all, which is nothing but an incident. So that can be posted under the target table for incident here. Or you are making any request for any kind of leaves or something to the HR. So that comes under the HR case target table. Or you are making any kind of access management, right? So you are requesting for access to share any kind of folders for your project related stuff and all that. So we have to update this in the target table called access request. So these are the common use cases. So because when we try to understand this practically, because it's not only about learning as a BA on a high level note, it's even important for us to understand the practical business scenarios, because multiple business scenarios for different requirements we come across. As in when we are learning business analyst ServiceNow application, or matter to the fact, any application we learn, but as a business analyst in ServiceNow, understanding about different business scenarios and how this is how you have addressed is important. But when we go for an interview, people will ask you the scenario. They don't show you the application and they don't ask you to work on the application at the time of interview, right? So they will ask you different scenarios, how this can be addressed and how we have performed. That kind of understanding people should have, because it's all about scenario-based learning in different situations as a BA, how you have addressed all these. So these are the common scenarios I have given. So the couple of scenarios even I explained earlier even at the session when I taken BA and all that was there. So time to time when it needed, when I'm free, right? So I'll be posting those as well. So that is common, right? So these are the common use cases we have. When it comes to the data mapping, these are the differences, right? So these are the field level record procedure. Let's say that request name you want to. So under that ServiceNow table field, we requested for the name, right? So whatever the user we have, right? So that user can have a facility to log into the existing application. So these are the different record data mapping fields that we need to do, right? So either for the request name, or it can be request type, it can be for description, or it can be any additional information, because exact data table has to be translated from the old legacy application to new ServiceNow application also. So that we have to make sure. So for that, first of all, we need to identify what are the different data mapping fields that are to be mapped. So we have to make a list of it. Make sure no data should be no shared data should be missed in between, because the exact data has to be transferred to the new ServiceNow application. That we have to make sure. So these are the sample data mapping fields that we have taken. So these are all will be part of data mapping, etc. Now, as a BA, finally, these are the BA deliverables we do. We prepare documents, right? So we need to define the catalog structure, forms, or workflows and all, or any service level agreements. We have to prepare documents. How these documents can be prepared and all already detailed in my sessions, so that you can go through that. Next, field mapping sheets, mapping forms, fields for any service node table, columns, etc. So that we have to prepare. We have our own generally field mapping sheets available online in the organization level we have. Templates may slightly vary, but more or less field mapping sheets remains the same. So that is even important, because field mapping sheets where at the time of data mapping is needed. So that we have to prepare. Next, process flow diagrams, as I already mentioned earlier, because we have to visualize the catalog request for the fulfillment so that development team can understand well better. So process flow diagrams are even important. Next, user acceptance testing test cases we require so that we can verify the catalog submissions or any kind of record generations behavior, everything that can be done. So when we are doing the UAT test cases, etc. So finally, stakeholders we sign, right? So wherein we confirm the business requirements. So before you are going for the deployment and all, so we have to make sure these are the requirements that are to be addressed, and these are the requirements we have identified and agreed upon. So based on this, implementation will be taken further by the development team from there onwards. This is how, as an example, I have taken for a service now related stuff, for service catalog related for BA. This is all about this session.